So what we're going to do on zero product property says steps to use the zero product property. Number one, these steps right here we will refer back to throughout our notes, so make sure you know where they are. Step number one is remember to arrange the equation so it is equal to y. If it is already equal to y, then replace the y with a 0. So basically we're getting the equation set equal to 0. Set equal to 0, then we're going to factor each equation. When you factor, that's when you make your groups of parentheses. So then it'll look like this. Then you're going to set each piece equal to 0. Then you're going to solve each mini equation and check that your solutions are the graph's x-intercepts. So our last step will be to check that they're the x-intercepts. Cole, close whatever you're watching. Pay attention. Thank you. All right, everybody ready? So let's talk about why we would have the x-intercepts. Okay? So if I have a graph and I put 0 in for y, okay? So where does our y equal 0 on this graph?
At the vertex.
At the vertex, or at the origin, that's what you meant. At the origin, and where else does y equal 0? Does y equal 0 here?
Yes.
Does y equal 0 here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anywhere along the what? X-axis. So if you're replacing 0 for y, then you're finding where the graph has x-intercepts. All right, now here's something else that's super important. The x-intercepts of a graph are also these words. The solutions, they're the roots, and they're the zeros. All four of those words mean the same thing. So if a question says find the zeros, they're looking for the x-intercept. If a question says find the roots, they're looking for the x-intercepts. All right, these four words all mean the same thing. Okay, everybody ready? So here we go. I'm going to show you how to solve. The directions on here say solve each equation using factoring and the zero product property, and then use the given graph to check your solution. Garrison, wake up. You need to go get a drink? Okay, your paper's right there, dear, on the pencil bag. All right, so letter A, here it is. See how this thing is equal to y right there? So what did step number 1 say? Set it equal to what? 0. So set the y, replace the y with a 0. Step 2 said to do what? Look back up at your steps. Factor the equation. Is this thing already factored? Yes, it is already factored. So yay, we get to skip step 2. Step number 3 says set each piece equal to 0. So what are your pieces? Your pieces are your group of parentheses. So this is one piece and this is one piece. So I'm going to write 2x plus 7 is equal to 0. And then you're going to write x minus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, and then step 5. Mal, you with us? Step 5? Or no, I'm sorry, we're at step 4. Step 4 says to do what? Solve each mini equation. This is your mini equation right here. So this is like day 1 of Algebra 1.
Yeah, I forgot everything about Algebra.
Uh-oh, so if you want to get x by itself, what do you start with? Minus 7, minus 7. So you'd have 2x is equal to negative 7, and then divide by what? 2. So x equals negative 7 halves, okay, which is also negative 3.5 if you prefer the decimal. And then how about the one on the right? Add 4, so x is equal to 4. Okay, how many different answers did you get? 2. So step 5 says check that those are the graph's x-intercepts. So here is your graph. You're not always going to have a graph, but I gave you one here. Do those x-intercepts hit at these two numbers? Yes. X equals 4 is that one. and x equals negative 3.5 is that one. That's the big deal for today, that when you solve each of these, you're actually finding where it hits the x-axis. All right, now, you know how picky Math Excel is, right?
Yeah.
So when they ask for the solution, you have to put it in the correct format. So Dylan, read right there. What's it say?
Which one, the x-intercepts are blank, right, is ordered pairs, use a comma to separate.
Okay, perfect. So exactly what he just said. This is how Math Excel's going to write it. The x-intercepts are blank, write as ordered pairs, and use a comma to separate. You have to do those two things or it'll mark it wrong. All right, so write down. Here's how we're going to have to write our answer.
Negative 7.5, or is it 3.5?
I think it'll take negative 3.5. He's asking, do I have to use the fraction or the decimal? And I think if decimals end, Math Excel will take it. So let's just pretend they'll take negative 3.5. How do you write that dot as an ordered pair, Lexi?
Oh, 0, comma.
Other way. Negative 3.5,
Yeah.
comma, that's all right, negative 3.5, comma, 0, then a parenthesis,
Yeah.
and then use a comma to separate. So you have to put a comma here, and then new parenthesis. And what's the next ordered pair? 4, comma, 0. Good job. And that would be done.
Miss,
Yes.
will they always match? Like, what happens if it doesn't match? Did you do something wrong, or does that probably not work?
What do you mean by match?
So say, like, for A, if the x-intercept wasn't negative 3.5, would that mean you did something wrong, or the problem?
Oh, you mean if your x-intercept is not what the graph is? This is correct. So that means you made a problem in your math. Yeah, so check and make sure that that is the actual x-intercept. Okay, good. All right, now, here's another way that Math Excel might phrase it. Guys, you got to put your phones away and hide them. We're in the middle of a new lesson. Come on. B, the zeros are blank. Use a comma to separate. If they use the word zeros, they're just looking for blank, comma, blank. So what are you going to put for your answer here? What was that 0? Negative 3.5. Good job, Antoinette. So you'd put negative 3.5, and then a comma, and then what was the 0 over here? 4. So your answer would just be that. That is not an ordered pair. Notice I did not use parentheses around it, did I? Okay, so everybody has this stuff written down, because when we come to Math Excel Monday and you get them wrong, you're going to get real mad. And I'm going to say, well, this is how you got to format it. All right, let's go to part B. So same thing here. What do you notice you got to do first on part B? You can't factor until it's set equal to what? 0. Good. Now let me tell you something else that's a major rule, and you don't ever want to forget it in future math classes. This is going to be your leading term because it's the highest exponent. Everybody agree x squared is the highest term up here?
Yes.
So that you want to keep positive. Is it positive on this side of the equal sign? Then everything else needs to move to it. So see the negative 6 over here? How do I move the negative 6 over here? Plus 6. So that's first step on this one. You want x squared minus 7x plus 6 all equals 0. Okay, now we do something that starts with an F. Factor. Does it have a greatest common factor? Nope. So we do a snowflake. Hide it. What's your first times your last? 6. What's the bottom number? Negative 7, and your A is 1 and 1. Two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to negative 7. Negative 6 and negative 1. Good job. Is there any simplifying to do here? No. So it was going to be x, what? Minus 6, and then the other one's going to say x minus 1, all equals 0. So it is factored. The new step today is set each piece equal to 0. So x minus 6 is equal to 0. X minus 1 is equal to 0. and this should be really quick. What's plus 6 plus 6? X is equal to what? 6, add 1, x is equal to 1. All right, I'm not going to make you keep doing this, but if it asks for x-intercepts, what do you have to write? Ordered pairs or just numbers? Okay, let's skip that one because I'm out of space. How about if it says the zeros are 6, comma 1, 6, comma 1. Okay, good.